Hello everybody and welcome to the North American Star League. This is week 1, day number 2. And I'm your host, Andre Great Torpengstra. Joined by me is a very special guest. We have Mr. Zach Arthur Diggity SC Smith.
And it is an absolute honor to be here with you.
No. It's an absolute honor for me to be here with you. Let me just say real quick. In StarCraft 1, this guy was my hero for casting. Without a doubt, I would actually fall asleep to his casts. Yeah, a big heart like that for you, Diggity.
I still remember casting Yankee League almost 4 years ago when Andre was on Team Light before they were Team Fnatic and StarCraft 2. It was good times. That was actually my favorite time casting ever.
It was a very good time, and you've become a very successful YouTube caster as of, well, since the StarCraft 1, but you've been able to transition to StarCraft 2 very well.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun. Hope you guys enjoy me. You can actually check me out on YouTube at DiggitySC if you enjoy what you see here.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm super excited for this. We get to cast an amazing lineup of people, and of course I get to cast with you today. Let me go ahead and get into some of the players. We have today July Zerg versus White Raw as our first match. I know. Hold on, we'll get into it later. QXE versus Moman as our second match. We have Dark Force going up against Cruncher for our third match. Our fourth match is going to be featuring TT1 versus Show. And our fifth and final match is going to be In Control versus Ensnare. Our good old In Control, our caster In Control. He's going to be going up against the Korean Terran Ensnare. But before I go into the matches and everything, I want to go into the maps. So our maps are going to feature an extra map from yesterday. It's still going to be 3 maps, however. We're going to be starting on Crossfire SE. Now, Crossfire SE, I know we talked about it a little bit yesterday, but, I mean, the big thing that we said was going to be positions and mobility. It really lends itself to those two big things. So we're going to be probably seeing a lot of that today. The second map we're going to be going into is Backwater Gulch, the Blizzard map. That's going to be featuring a lot of high aggression. We said a lot of high aggression and making sure that we're keeping each other, or both of the players are going to keep each other on their toes.
Keep each other honest, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah.
The third map is going to be the new one.
We're going to see Tal'Darim Altar, which has actually created some fantastic matches everywhere, really. Whenever you've seen Tal'Darim Altar, they've been really, really intense. I think it just creates amazing games, and we are having the version of the map that has the lower mineral count at the third base, so it creates some really fun games. Map control situations, oftentimes some cheese. There's opportunities for that as well. I'm really excited to see it out there.
Yeah, well, we actually have a mini helicopter, a StarCraft 2 helicopter, that we're going to go ahead and get into. And I have it on my computer. I'm going to go ahead and load it up. There we go. We got to load it up.
So sweet.
Insta loaded up. So let's go ahead and get into the flyby. Now, we can already see that the main, pretty open. That's the biggest thing. But normally we can see ramps coming out from the main to the natural. We're not going to see that, however. We can see also that there is a destructible rocks that is going to kind of block off, going to make a smaller choke in the beginning. But as the game progresses on, it's going to get slightly bigger. Now we can also see the natural is fairly wide. 2 entrances to the natural, one with a ramp, and another one is going to be right around the corner from another expansion. So 3 base is a very huge potential for this map. We can see that a lot of times just taking that very quickly, but of course there is a back rocks there. So we can also see that just going around the corner, there's a very, very big, wide open map. Gold minerals are going to be, actually, this is an edited map. Gold minerals and just gold minerals are going to be in the middle of the map. Now, a lot of times people say, oh, great, gold minerals are there. We can go ahead and get that. But it's actually extremely hard to take. There is a 360-degree harass on this individual base, so it's not too safe to go ahead and get. But moving on to it, we can see Xel'Naga towers all around the map, and it's going to be really important to get some sort of map control in this, and apparently I need to lower my graphics settings just because it was recently patched, and now we're
not have to worry about the lag and the computer problems. So one thing I like about Tal'Darim Altar in particular is before where people were complaining in the prior map sets that, oh, it's only 3-base play and you just deny your opponents the 3rd base and then you end up with an absolute victory. In Tal'Darim Altar, it's still 3-base play, but because of the lowered mineral count, it creates more interesting long-term macro sort of style where you have to maintain map control. Map control is so important. It's so emphasized on Tal'Darim Altar in particular.
I couldn't agree more. Again, going off of that 3rd, people don't understand really sometimes why the map changes with the lower resource counts. Actually, when you take your natural and you take your 3rd, generally the 3rd stays a lot alive longer, much more. Now that we have less minerals, actually the natural and the 3rd base gets dried up at the same time. So if you don't capitalize on that huge surge of minerals to take another base, you can be sitting very, very far behind in the end game. So we're going to be looking to see a lot of different clever play. We're going to see how these players adapt to this individual map, as it is going to be a little bit changed from what they're used to.
Yeah. And so, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think anyone's going to be able to exploit Tal'Darim Altar in particular, looking at all the playstyles?
Well, I mean, since there's no ramp and the natural is sort of open, I think it lends itself to a lot of early game cheeses because people say, oh, well, it's going to be an economic map, it's going to be a macro map, we're going to go ahead and just, take very safe expansions. And people can actually use that to their metagame knowledge and say, okay, I'm going to early Banelink bust you, I'm going to early 5-gate you, I'm going to early proxy barracks you. Any of those situations I've actually seen quite a few times on different maps. And I think that's definitely a plausible strategy that people can do. So there is a lot of variance, I think, in this individual map, and it leads itself to a lot of different styles, in my opinion.
I completely 100% agree, and I'm extremely excited to see that in the map pool.
So before we get excited about the map, let's talk about the matchups, because this is what's going to get me all giddy in my pants. Let's start with Game 5, or Match 5, I should say. We have Ensnare, one of the Korean superstars, going up against In Control.
Another,
well, he's a Western superstar, I would say. You're actually filling his spot today.
Yeah,
it's
pretty
awesome.
So you can practice and go ahead and get that match in against Ensnare. He's going to need the practice because Ensnare is a tough opponent.
Indeed. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Ensnare?
So Ensnare, if you guys were keeping track of GSL, he did really, really well Season 1, or he's just done fantastic at large. Unfortunately, he hasn't been doing well lately. I feel like he's slacked off a little bit. Particularly, he had a really strong opening harass style, and after that, after Reapers were kind of nerfed,
I noticed that.
He hasn't been playing as well, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he has a vulnerability against foreigners. He lost to Idra, he lost to Jinro, and that presents opportunities for In Control. And I don't think In Control's one of those guys who's going to shrink back in his play when he looks at a big name like Ensnare.
Yeah, definitely. I think In Control definitely has the composure. He's been in the scene for quite a long time, been a competitor for so long. So for him to go into this, I can't see nerves getting to him. I think he's going to just be playing his game, and his game is a more theoretical base. It's a much more intelligent, deliberate style of play, because he doesn't have that fantastic micro and fantastic. Not saying he doesn't have bad micro and macro. He has amazing micro and micro. But if we're talking about the top tier, I wouldn't classify him as the best in the world.
Not one of the top 3 in North America.
But his style of play, that intellectual style of play, does allow him to become one of the best in the North American scene.
I think he's always really well prepared, and on top of that, he had a fantastic run at MLG Dallas.
My gosh, yes.
So he's in top shape. I think this is exactly the place in the preparation, and just the style of play. He's got it wrapped up, and he knows what he wants against OGS Ensnare. I'm curious if Ensnare is going to be prepared against him, is really what it comes down to. Walking into kind of a little bit of a pun here, a foreign arena, going up against a foreigner in Control, knowing in the past that you had players like Idra, like Jinro, people that In Control practices with, and is capable of beating, is capable of keeping head-to-head with, and it could be a disastrous matchup for him.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and we're going to be preparing for that. I mean, OGS Ensnare, old generations, hailing from old generation StarCraft, and EG In Control, hailing from Evil Geniuses. That's going to be an awesome match. I can't wait to get into that. But before that, we're going to be going into match number 4, which is going to be featuring Fnatic MSI's TT1 against Dignitas's show.
I think this is definitely a highlight match because these guys, either of these guys, could take the entire group, and they're actually my pick to definitely advance one or the other of them. And it really is rock versus rock. These guys are so solid, so strong in their play, and just so well prepared. I think Show, and I'm almost curious to see what TT1 does against Show with his late scouting SCV. It doesn't even scout with SCVs. It throws a lot of players off. And I'm also curious what will happen later when Show ends up inevitably playing against some Koreans when he doesn't have that early scouting SCV, if he can steal some games because here's an opportunity to cheese in a later matchup. And they end up paying for it. But this, I think, is going to be the highlight match of the day. I'm really excited for it.
Well, Show and TT1, I've actually had the pleasure of meeting both of these players. They're such nice people. Well, TT1, okay. No, I'm just kidding. TT1's great. He is actually my teammate. Both these players talk a lot, actually, with each other. They know each other's styles quite well. And if I know TT1, he loves to analyze people's styles and actually hard counter them. So normally in a regular game, he wouldn't be able to do the type of builds he's able to. But because he knows his opponent so well, he's going to go ahead, cut corners, and make sure that he's super optimal. So he takes these little advantages, and he tries to use that to ultimately get him the win. Show on the other side, just an all-around, extremely intelligent player, and he uses metagame styles too. I mean, not scouting whatsoever. You have to understand your opponent to be able to play proficiently.
That's the thing. I can't even remember the last match where I saw Show take a definitive loss, and he's just been playing brutally strong lately, and he's been playing at another level almost, and it'll be exciting to see him playing against TT1, who's another guy that's solid and been playing at another level lately.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that. Of course, CT1 is my
your home bro. You gotta go with.
He's my bro, and he just recently actually moved to a pro gaming house in Florida.
Wow!
And all they do is practice professionally. So definitely looking forward to see the outcome of that match. In match number 3, we are having Cruncher against Dark Force. Now, Cruncher is going to be coming from Complexity, and Dark Force coming from Alternate.
Yeah, this is kind of the Dark Horse group, and not to make a rhyming pun there with Dark Force, but I think a lot of people, they've seen Cruncher a little bit, and unfortunately I feel like Cruncher's mostly known for beating Idra. That's his that's his claim to fame. That's where he gets a lot of his notoriety. But really, to carry his name in StarCraft 2, he needs to do well here. I think this is a good opportunity to start off. I think Dark Force, a little less known about him. I think when I think of him, I think of Mini Idra, really is what it comes down to. So it could be a difficult matchup for him. He tends to play a more macro-oriented style, whereas you see Cruncher stick to more the straight 4-gate. And really, when I think of him, I think it's kind of like Huck to Sentry is Cruncher to Stalker. He's just incredible early game micro.
I couldn't agree more. The micro of Cruncher though is fantastic. I love seeing his micro. That's actually how he was able to beat Idra, and he's actually performed very well. Now he has had a 4-gate kind of typecasted almost, that kind of thing. But I've seen him play longer games, and he's no joke. He has the capacity to, and he's definitely intelligent without a doubt. So I'm really looking forward to see him pitted against Dark Force. Now Dark Force, especially the Western scene, or excuse me, the North American scene, hasn't seen much of him, but he has been very active in Europe. He's a very strong Zerg player. I've seen games with him against my other teammate Kawhi Rice, and he's beaten Kawhi Rice very well, and Kawhi Rice really prides himself in his Terran versus Zerg. And Dark Force is absolutely no joke. This guy, I saw his decision making, and I went through his process. He's so intelligent. Just the way he moves his units, his movement around the map, how he establishes map control is so strong. I don't see a lot of players doing that. I'm really looking forward to this map, Dark Force versus Cruncher, because I think it's going to be a really, really surprising match for a lot of people.
What I really want to see him do is isolate that one base. Is when he's taking the early game, play very, very safe, try to force a longer game versus Cruncher, because I haven't seen Cruncher's long macro game proven. I mean, I know he's extremely solid with his micromanagement. He's very strong off 1-base, 2-base play, but I have yet to see him go past 2-base into 3-base, 4-base, or those long, I think Tall Dream Alter in particular, when you're talking about the big map position sort of style. I haven't seen him in that style, and really to be successful here, he's going to have to establish himself, prove himself in that sort of arena.
Yeah, I think so. So definitely looking forward to that match. For match number 2, we're going to have QXC, the homegrown American player that's actually in Spain or Europe or some other place. But he's going to be going up against the Frenchman, Mr. Moman. And this guy, he's he's quite a class act, if I do say so myself.
I agree, 100%. If you guys have seen his NASL application video,
it's hilarious.
It's really, really hard to get classier than that. He's just so classy with what he... And I really like his style of play, too. It tends to be more creative. He throws in a lot. He plays the metagame. He can be all in. He can be macro. He can be defensive. He can be aggressive. He prides himself in this. And it's going to be interesting to see him going up against QXC. Really, yeah, the All-American Terran, as a lot of people have referred him to. I guess I am now, even though he's out in Spain, of all places.
Yeah.
Very aggressive early. I think he's had a little bit of a rough spot recently as well. But it'll be an interesting establishing game having him go up against Moment in particular.
Yeah, I mean, QXC is known for his huge amount of aggression. He loves aggression, just hitting you at multiple places at multiple times, and he actually does a lot of combination strings. So he'll, instead of attacking, he'll sometimes attack at the same place or multiple places at the same time, but he'll also do like an attack here, and then he'll actually wait until units come over and then string it and then back up. So he likes that sort of play where it's just 1-2 punches almost, or 1-2-3, or 1-2-3-4-5-6-7-8-9-10 punches.
Yeah, I'd say the one weakness in QXC's play is if he doesn't have a huge lead going into the late game, he has a lot more trouble as far as the long-term macro style goes. So Tal'Darim Alter, again, could be a big factor in this matchup.
Indeed. I mean, it's going to be up to Moman to be able to parry these attacks efficiently, but, I mean, he has the capacity. He's a very unpredictable player. He has the capacity to do really anything he wants, and I think we're going to be seeing a really strong matchup out of these two players.
Wow. And speaking of the strong players, oh my goodness.
Okay. When I first heard about this, I got all giddy like this. But go ahead.
We're gonna have July Zerg, none other than July Zerg from Startale, going up against Duckload White Raw, and I cannot say how excited I am to be casting July Zerg in a live match, in particular against White Raw, the beast from the east, and aptly named so. Oh my goodness. Okay,
so White Raw, he is from Team Duckload. He actually has his own team. That's how big of a player he is. He is the beast from the east, without a doubt. Amazing play. If you want to talk about style, I think the biggest thing would be just his overall composure, his execution, his ability to just play what he wants to play, when he wants to play. It's very hard to actually do what you want, like what you're thinking. You know, you always say, "Oh, I want to be able to do this," but it gets so overwhelming.
Micro everything on the field perfectly.
It gets so overwhelming. White Raw just does it.
Yeah.
And he's able to play every single style because of that. He's able to actually play against every single style because of that. And it's just a really, really huge art to see, I think.
When I think White Raw, I think execution. I think execution, execution, execution. If you're going to beat White Raw, you have to do it heads up. You are not going to be able to throw him off. You're not going to be able to cheese him. You're not going to be able to force him out of his game style. He will execute time and time again. He is so solid. And on top of that, I think when he sees a big name like July Zerg, he's not going to shrink back.
No.
And I'm really excited to see him in that match. And it's kind of interesting seeing July Zerg because he tends to be a more psychological player. This is a guy long established, known for an extremely... I mean, he's an establishing factor, an establishing player, one of the legacy guys from Brood War. He is the reason that Brood War has Mutalisks as a big feature in Zerg play. He perfected that. He's the reason you see that in play. Moving on to StarCraft 2, and I'm curious how he's going to approach White Raw, especially, I don't know if he studied up on him or not, but if he hasn't, he's going to be in a lot of trouble.
You know, I just had a surreal moment just now because you said Mutamicro, and July Zerg's Mutamicro is awesome, but you talking about it, I remember watching a cast of you of casting July Zerg when he first did his Mutamicro on Rush Hour 3 in StarCraft 1. And I remember the exact game. I was like, whoa, what just happened? But yeah. July Zerg, this guy is so strong. Again, as you said, pioneered the Mutamicro, really perfected the Mutamicro, I should say. And he was actually one of the best Zerg, actually the first #1 ranked Zerg in StarCraft 1. Transitioned to StarCraft 2 and was like, yeah, I got this. Made it to the finals of GSL, the most recent GSL. This guy has been performing absolutely fantastically. He kind of favors like a half economic, half not economic. Like, he's going to get a lot of economy in the beginning, and then he cuts all of that and says, I'm going to do high aggression for the rest of the game.
It's kind of interesting because it's not exactly Micro Zerg, but it's not exactly Macro Zerg either at the same time. And he really was the first person, at least in Brood War, to coin Sauron Zerg, where you just flood units and a constant stream across the map. So we'll see if we actually see that in some of these macro-oriented maps. I almost worry about him emotionally, though, a little bit. I mean, he just got absolutely crushed in that GSL final. So coming in here, I know he wants it. He wants to reestablish himself. Losing to White Raw early could be huge.
Indeed. We're going to definitely see an amazing match. Again, Duckload White Raw against Startails July Zerg. I cannot wait for this first match, and I do believe we are going to be going directly...
Getting a message from the producer right now. So really fast, before we go into Game 1, wanted to give a big shout out to wellplayed.org. That is going to be the official forums for NASL. You can also check out, they're out of the Reddit community, so you can follow a lot of the action there as well. And Underlined Entertainment, who's provided a ton of sponsorship money for this.
And definitely check out NASL TV. Go and like us on Facebook as well and Twitter. It is NASL TV. Facebook.com/NASLTV and Twitter.com/NASLTV. And also check out the website. You know, we put in a lot of work to the NASL website, and I think it's pretty awesome. So you can check that out at www.nasl.tv.
I got to say, I was really impressed, and a lot of people are saying this is the way it should be done as far as a website for a big tournament like this goes.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the entire staff of NASL, and... All right, so let's go ahead and get into game number 1. It's going to be White Raw
versus July
Zerg. So let's go ahead and get into it.